And today we are going to paint this beautiful painting of Japanese cherry blossoms. I actually got to live for 6.5 years in Japan, so I was very, very lucky to get to witness a lot of these trees bloom across the Japanese landscape. So of course we are going to start off with our blank canvas, which is right here. I am using a 16 by 20 stretched canvas. And when I talk about stretched canvas, I mean that it is actually stapled to a wood frame in the back. My canvases are prepped for acrylic or oil painting. You can use canvas board, you could use wood, you could use multimedia. I just prefer to use canvas because of the application. It makes it smoother. And the ones that I purchased are already primed for acrylic or oil. If you buy or use an unprimed surface, you'll want to buy gesso. It's Gesso, and you'll want to apply that and let it dry for about 24-48 hours before you apply your paint. So let's go ahead and get started. As always, I start with what is created first. So our atmosphere or our sky is going to be created first in this painting. So I love to use lots of different colors. I've painted this and taught this painting quite a bit. It looks good in blues and purples, reds, blacks, yellows, orange, anything that is a slight of a contrast to the cherry blossom color itself works wonderfully. Today I am actually going to stick with, I think I'm going to do yellow in orange, so it's a little bit different than the background that you just saw. No matter what colors you start with, you are actually going to get yourself a palette. I use cheap plastic plates, reusable, you just rinse them off. For orange, I'm going to use yellow and red, and I always apply white with it. It just helps make that pigment in the yellow a little bit more solid. So I'm going to rinse off my brush here. I'm going to grab a big slab of white and some yellow. It might turn a little green on me, but I think that red will help take care of it. I'm going to start to apply to my canvas. So just nice and big. Hold it this way. And for this painting, the background really does make a difference. Because the foreground is so simple, I think the more movement, the more brush strokes you see in the background really makes a difference and really impacts how the overall composition of your painting works. So I like to leave lots of big brush strokes. Now I am a right-handed painter, so normally I have my canvas to my right side. Today I'm doing my left side. I don't know why, but it's a little bit different for me. So if you start to struggle with the placement of your canvas, go ahead and switch it out to see if you can get something a little bit different and it's more comfortable for you. I'm just going to play with my brush strokes. Don't be scared to add color or play with things, because the great thing about acrylic painting specifically is that you can always add another layer and change it. The painting is not complete until you stop painting. So, and lots of times I paint overused canvases, so trust me, it's not permanent. Add some more white and yellow. Okay, once you've got your background colored the way you want it, you're just going to go ahead and leave it, and we're going to start to apply our second layer right away. The next layer is actually going to be the tree branch itself, because anytime I start painting something, I paint it from the way it was grown or it was formed. So I use my really big brush for the background because I was trying to cover a lot of space. This now I'm going to switch out to a little bit smaller of a brush. I would say it's about the size of a 1/2 brush. And I'm going to dip right into my burnt umber, which is my dark brown. And the way I grow trees, well, I paint trees, is the way that they're grown. So I'm going to start from the bottom of the canvas and I'm going to move upward. And I'm going to place it wherever I want my tree. I want my tree off-center because I really want the formation of the bushes over the background to be the focal point. And it's going to be a little bit of a wiggle. Not perfect. I'm not real too concerned about filling it all the way up because I'm going to add a couple more layers to it. Great thing about trees is that they're all unique, and so you really can't mess them up. For the branches, you want to make sure you kind of V that branch out. Branches don't get stuck on a parallel or line on top of each other. They're not perfectly stuck in there. You want to actually think about how it's being formed out. It grows out. So if you look at your fingers kind of have that divot inside because your fingers slowly grow out or the skin covers it out from the palm of your hand. Same thing with the branches. So I'm going to ease this one up and all the way over. And I always add just a little bit of a wiggle. Then you're going to keep adding branches until you feel like you've got enough branches to cover up to support the number of cherry blossoms on the canvas. Now, I feel like I've got enough big branches on there, so now I'm going to go with my smaller branches, which are more supporting branches. That one I'm going to switch out to a smaller brush. I call it my pencil thin brush. It's just a little bit smaller and it's got more of a tip on it. That way I can get smaller, more detailed ones. I load up my brush with paint, so that way I can just drag it across the canvas and not press so hard. I think that's going to be enough for right now. Awesome. So I've got my branches on there. From here, I'm going to start adding more colors to the tree trunk and the branches. I typically start out with some white and I'll use some raw umber as some accent colors. What I'm trying to do is create some depth on that tree itself. And the way we do that is by creating some highlights that would be created by the sun in its original environment outside. And the shadows are that darker brown. So I'm going to use the same technique. I'm just kind of dragging my brush loaded up with paint. That way it clumps in kind of a funky pattern because the tree trunks and the grooves that are on that bark isn't perfect. So I want to exemplify that by using an imperfect brush stroke. I'm just going to kind of You might have to go back through and add some dark burnt umber to it, and that's okay. You just kind of keep going back and forth between your colors until you get the effect that you want. Okay, I think I'm done. I'm going to keep with my smaller brush for my cherry blossoms. And for this picture, I'm going to keep with the standard pink and white. Some people have switched out their colors. They've done more of a purple, but I typically like to keep mine true to nature. So I'm going to take white and red and mix it together until I get a pretty pink. And I'm going to start, the way I do it is 4 little dots next to each other. If your dots are bigger, your flowers are going to be larger. If you want them smaller, then you want tinier dots. Is you're going to fill this canvas up with all these little dots until you feel that your tree is full to the point where it's blossomed enough. Okay, once you've got enough flowers on there, we can move on to our next step, which is actually putting in the center of the flower. Because right now it probably looks like a bunch of globs. But once we add that pink center, the flowers really come together. So I'm going to stick with the smallest brush I've got, which is probably going to be just my tiny little one. And I'm going to pick up straight red for this one. And I'm just going to find the center of each one and put a little dot right there. Once you've completed putting all the dots on your picture, you are finished. Of course, that is unless you want to add and complete this white space down here. I've done it several different ways. You can add grass, rocks, rivers, boats, add people sitting underneath the tree. One of the most prettiest things I've ever done is actually add some leaves and some flowers falling kind of in the wind. It's a beautiful, simple way to fill up this white space right here. Now for this picture, I left it fairly simple, keeping the flowers limited. It gives it a little bit of a different look. It emphasizes the sunrise, the orange background. If we take a look at the original painting, there's a lot more flowers to it. It's a very much more active painting. I've got some mountains in the bottom along with some grass. So I've made this one very different. Play around with it, have fun with it. If you don't like the first one, try a different one. This would also be a great painting to split up among 3 different canvases, put the tree in the middle and have the branches come out extending on the other 2, and then place it as a whole wall piece. So, hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, please definitely like and subscribe below. Leave a comment if there's a design or something that you need help creating. I would love to show you. Definitely visit my own artistic website, which is theblueyedartist.com. And if you're ever in Destin, Florida, please visit us at our studio at thepaintingvine.com. Thank you so much and see you next time.